Have you heard about Anchor? Well, it's one of the easiest ways to create a podcast. Not only is it 100% free, but it has a variety of creation tools that allow you to record and edit your podcast right from your phone or a computer. Anchor will distribute your podcast to other sites such as Spotify, Apple Podcast, and many others for you. And Anchor even allows you to make money from your podcast without a required minimum listenership. So whether you've been in the podcasting game for a long time or you're completely new to it, Anchor is so user-friendly that it's basically your one-stop shop for making a podcast. So what are you waiting for? Download the free Anchor app or go to anchor.fm to get started.
You're listening to First Fossil. Because sometimes you simply need someone to help you take that first fossil.
Hello and welcome to First Fossil, a show where we learn together how to take that first fossil toward becoming the best versions of ourselves. My name is Candace Olushala, and this past Sunday, we had daylight savings time. Now, for those of you who are blessed enough to not have to experience daylight savings time, let me break it down for you, okay? So, in the spring, those of us that do this, we lose an hour of time by setting our clocks forward an hour to adjust to the sun setting later and later and later throughout the year where we are, okay? And every fall, we gain an hour of time back. So, we'll set our clocks back an hour in the fall to adjust to the sun setting earlier and earlier and earlier as the year gets later. So we say spring forward, fall back as a way to remember which direction to change our clocks. Falling back is amazing. I wish we was always falling back. Hey, fall back. You know what I'm saying? But spring forward? No, that's a hot mess. It's atrocious. It's trash. It needs to go. Because I'm still adjusting to waking up at 6 in the morning when my body feels like it's actually 5 in the morning, and that internal battle between the body and the mind that early, the body is really strong at 6 a.m. for the body, like mentally 5 a.m. Like the body's gonna win. The body wins in the spring daylight saving season all the time. And since I've been struggling, I've had to do some things. I'll actually share you some tips that I have for you to hopefully help the mind win again. Let's get the mind to win again, because Holy Ghost come through. So here is my tip for those of you who struggle with time changes, even just in general. Like if you're traveling and you have jet lag, you switch time zones, your body's like, hey, whoa, hey, where we at? Where we at? I don't know. So you can actually take melatonin, for those of you that it works for, and you can do that 30 minutes before you want to actually be in bed and asleep. And that can help reset yourself to the time changes. Now, for those of you that struggle with sleep in general, regardless of where you are or the time zone, there's ZQuil. Don't use that too long, though, and follow the instructions on the bottle. And you might want to talk to a doctor about it, because there are prescription medications out there for those of you who don't take that deep sleep in the middle of the night, So talk to your doctor if that's a problem. But if you're just trying to adjust, like I am, melatonin, pick a dose. Start with the lowest dose. If that don't work, bump it up, okay? But 30 minutes before you want to be asleep, pop that in your mouth. Hopefully you sleep like a baby, okay? So, but for those of you that don't have to worry about daylight savings time, just know that, and I mean this with all sincerity and care. Who we hate you, but it's not that deep, so don't worry about it. It's just that's just how we feel in the moment, because we cranky. So once we adjust, we'll feel that social distance warm embrace again with y'all. But for right now, we ain't friends. So in other news, though, I received my second dose of the Moderna vaccine this past Friday. And with the first shot, my arm was really, really sore, as I told you guys, and I just did arm circles a lot, and it ended up alleviating it to where I didn't need any pain medication. The second one, my arm was only ever so slightly sore, and that's about it. And it wasn't even sore until day 2, and I had to lift up my arm to about 90-degree angle before I felt it. So, I mean, it was totally fine. I was actually shocked. I was prepared. I came with Tylenol. I had an EpiPen. I was ready to go. I was about to fight the vaccine if it was trying to fight me. But I guess it heard me and decided to behave. So, if you missed my live streams on it, I actually did live streams about it on my First Basso IG page. And it was just some updates regarding post-injection symptoms, post-injection reactions, and I actually answered some questions and concerns that people had that they brought to me on IG and on Facebook. So you can go on www.instagram.com/firstbasso and you can watch the series under my IGTV tab. So hopefully that's helpful. If you have any other questions, let me know. Now, for some updates on what's kind of happening around the world regarding the COVID vaccine, I saw that the New York Times had posted on Saturday, March 12th, 2021, they had this updated list. They had this coronavirus vaccine tracker, and at that point, they've probably updated it since, but they were showing how there are different vaccines going through the trial stages right now in the different phases. So there's 4 phases of COVID vaccine trials. For any vaccine trials, for any drug trials, there's different phases that they have to go through. So we have about 42 vaccines that are in phase 1, which is where they're just testing for the safety and the dosage of whatever they're testing, in this case, a COVID vaccine. Phase 2, they had 32 listed that are expanding those safety trials. So that's phase 2. 22 vaccines are in phase 3, that is the large-scale efficacy testing that goes on. And then stage 4 is kind of a conglomerate of things. So you have the authorization that happens. There are 6 vaccines in the earlier limited use stage of the authorization. There's 6 that have been approved for full use and 4 vaccines that were abandoned after trials. So that's been happening, and researchers are currently testing 76 vaccines in clinical trials on humans, and 22, like we said, are in their final stages. So that's really cool. And at least 77 preclinical vaccines are under active investigation in animals. I didn't even know that. Isn't that cool? So just some new additions and recent updates to what's going on with that from the last, I'd say 2 or 3 weeks or so. On February 25th, China actually approved 2 vaccines for general use called CanSino and Sinopharm. So those 2 were approved in China. Canada on February 26th authorized for the Oxford AstraZeneca vaccine for emergency use. However, on March 11th, Denmark, Iceland, and Norway suspended their use of Oxford AstraZeneca. So they were already using that brand, that manufacturer of the vaccine, but because they had concerns about blood clots, they actually decided to stop the use of the Oxford AstraZeneca vaccine. Now, on my birthday, on February 27th, the Food and Drug Industry, the FDA, they authorized the Johnson & Johnson vaccine for emergency use. Then a few days after that, Canada had authorized for the Johnson & Johnson vaccine as well. We've seen VBI vaccines enter phase 1 and 2. We've seen Soberana 2, which is in Cuba. That's the Cuban vaccine. They've moved on to phase 3. The BioNet Asia and Australia's Technovalia vaccines, they entered phase 1. We've seen Vietnam's Nanogen Biopharmaceutica move to phase 2. China also had another one, the Academy of Military Medical Sciences vaccine. Theirs moved to phase 2. The Bavarian Nordic and the Prevent nCoV consortium entered phase 1 and 2. The European Union actually authorized for the Johnson & Johnson vaccine on March 11th. Italy moved their Riftera, I don't know if I'm saying that right, but that one moved to phase 2 and 3. Then the Novavax reported strong trial results for theirs, and the vaccine from Sanofi and Translate Bio entered phase 1 and 2 on Sunday. So we're seeing a whole bunch are out there. I know for those of us in the US, all we hear is Johnson & Johnson, Pfizer, Moderna, but know that there are several out there globally that are being made right now. And it's really cool that so many vaccines are out there, and it's amazing all of the work that scientists around the globe are putting into the creation of these vaccines, so that way we can go back to some sense of normalcy. It's going to be different. We all should probably start wrapping our heads around that. But I think it's really cool that so many are being tested and going through review. And scientists, thank you guys so much for the hard work that you're putting into public health. Thank you so much for all the work that you're doing with the campaigning for the COVID vaccine. To all the healthcare workers, my fellow pharmacists, all the nursing staff, doctor's offices, dental offices, you guys, thank you so much for helping with this process. It's gonna take time. We're doing our best in every country to get people the vaccine, but the effort that we're all doing together, I think, is amazing. And I just want to encourage you, as a fellow public health worker, as a fellow medical worker, and as a fellow citizen of the world. Thank you. Thank you guys so much. If you guys have any questions regarding the COVID vaccine, or if you want me to look into a certain brand or a certain study, I do not mind doing that. I'm actually curious about some of these other vaccines that are being tested. I haven't heard about a lot of them, and so I'm curious too. So if you guys are curious with me and want me to bring some pharmacy knowledge to the light, I would love to do that for you guys. And if you have other questions, whether it's about pregnancy and breastfeeding with the vaccine, or the different reactions that people have been reporting, or what's going on globally with their reactions and their vaccines, and whatever you guys have questions about, just let me know. You can reach me at hola@firstpaso.com, or you can just message me on IG. Now, for today's topic, I actually have a question from one of our listeners, and her name is Hillary. She's from Rhode Island. So she asked, how do you tactfully deal with a friendship that you believe should end? Hillary, that is a great question, and thanks for asking. I think many of us can actually relate to this question. I don't know about you guys, but have you ever been in a situation where you realize a friendship might not last as long as you thought it was going to last? Or maybe it went in a direction that totally threw you off and you just were caught by surprise. Well, I think a lot of us go through that at some point in life. And there are different types of negative friendships that we could end up encountering or having. or just different types of friendships in general out there. I actually saw an article on HuffPost that described different types of friendships, and I wanted to read some of the ones that they had mentioned. So, obviously, there's that acquaintance or your associate. It's usually someone that you work with, and it's not personal. It's nothing really deep. It's just I see you a lot, so I should probably say hi, just to be polite. Sometimes you're friends with these people on Facebook just because, like, you're nosy, and you may have never spoken to them really a day in your life. You may have never spoke to them when you were in school in 1996, but you want to see what's going on, so you just kind of stalk their lives and like, oh, let's be quote unquote Facebook friends and like quote unquote keep up with each other. But you just want to know the baby mama drama and where they at and who they be with. So I understand that. I'm not mad at your game. And then there is what they call the appendage. These are people that when you become something of yourself, all of a sudden, those people that you called acquaintances, or even they could be bullies, they're just kind of in your space. Now they think y'all are best friends. Now that you got a blue check mark, oh my goodness, remember when I sat behind you in math class in 3rd grade and I used to cheat off of you and then like punch you in the head from the back? Oh my goodness, great times. Can I get tickets to your show? Is the wildest thing. And these people, they basically think you can get them somewhere that they want to be, and they only acknowledge you because of that. Otherwise, before that, they basically treated you like you was a nobody to them, and they just acted like they barely knew you. Then there's the conditional friend, and these people will only acknowledge you on the premise that you do certain things for them. So they keep you around for those just in case seasons. So maybe you fix things really well. Maybe you lend them money a lot or just when they need it, and you give it to them, so they just think you're PNC or you're Bank of America. Or they want you to do favors for them here and there, whatever, but they just use you for your services, and then they'll go ghost on you for a while until all of a sudden they need something. They be like the Walking Dead. They just walk right back. So these people are similar to the type of friend that they call a situational friend. Yes, you can be in situationships with your friends. That is a thing. Those people, though, the situational friends, are super nice because they realize you might have some connection to someone famous and that you can get them in to see them, meet them, stalk them. And if you say no to these people, they go ghost on you too until the next big event happens or the next big connection you have happens, and they just want to be in the car with you when you're in the car with your famous friend. So those people, no. Next. Then you have the counterfeits, which should be easy to figure out. They fake, okay? They're fake. And those are those people that will come up to you and be like, oh, Becky, girl, your hair is so cute. Who did your hair, girl? Ooh, let me write her name down. Oh my goodness, thank you. Girl, did you see Becky's hair? And she said that Sarah did it. So don't go do it, because if you want to show up looking like Becky did today, girl, bye. Becky, oh my gosh, I love it. Yeah, those friends, fake, fake, fake. Yes, we don't need those. Then see, with them, you can't tell them anything because they're going to tell anybody everything. They're going to tell them all the things, and they're going to do it in the rudest way. So those counterfeits got to go. Then there's leeches. Leeches will suck your energy. Now, leeches can be good people. Leeches can be some of the kindest people on the planet. Some of them can also be toxic, but some of these people, they're the type of people that you gotta prepare yourself both mentally and emotionally to have a conversation with them, even for like 5 minutes, because 5 minutes with them is like it's like a 40-hour work week plus overtime. Like, it's a lot. It's a lot. You feel like you should have gotten paid for your conversation, because it was a full day's work. And as sweet as pie they can be, sometimes you gotta schedule those interactions with these people. You almost have to schedule them like black girls have to schedule their wash days, because it's a whole process. It's a process, folks. You gotta be prepared, okay? You gotta put that in the schedule, okay? And if they're negative and they're pessimistic and they're all, woe is me, the world's coming to an end, that's a different level of energy sucking. So these leeches, you gotta watch out for them, right? And then of course you have your toxic friends. Your toxic comes to Fernanda. Like, the absolute worst connection you can have with a person. These people pretend to support you in every way they can think of, but then they go behind your back and they sabotage you. They sabotage your reputation. They play ignorant. Translation for those of you who may be overseas, that's ignorant, but here in Candy's world, that's ignorant, okay? And they try to play ignorant later, and then they act like they have absolutely no clue what you're talking about when you call them out. Those ones got to go, okay? But see, here's the thing about friendships. They usually start on a healthy note, usually. Sometimes they start off unbalanced and you don't even realize it, which that's a whole other conversation for another day. But if you realize this, like, hey, I love this person, they're cool. You might call them your best friend. You might call them your homie. You might call them your sister, your brother. In Spanish, we might say mi ñaña, mi ñaño. Pana, man. Like, I mean, like my comrade. That's an old term, but whatever. Like someone who you call a dear friend and you truly care for them. That's wonderful. The thing about that is that when we're younger, we often tell ourselves, this is going to last forever. And people don't really teach us how something could change in the future. Don't necessarily prepare for it to change. Don't expect for it to change. But if change happens, I don't want you to be totally and completely shocked and shattered over it, right? We don't get taught that. It just kind of surprises us one day when it actually happens. And then we're like, what? Like, what? Right? I mean, shocked. Our whole lives are falling apart. But let's be real. Circumstances change. People change. You change, right? And sometimes the true characters of people come out that you didn't realize. And characters you've always noticed have been there are no longer conducive for your growth or your mental health or your emotional health or even your spiritual health. So first, I want to say that you have no obligation to stay in a friendship that you no longer want to be in. You have what is called free will. You have the choice to walk away. And the guilt to end a friendship usually comes from three things. There are expectations set, there's time spent, and there are labels that are created. And depending on the depth of each one of those categories, it might be harder to end friendships, even if you see that might actually be the best thing for not just you or the other person, or maybe just you. Maybe it's just you. So let me tell you a little story. So my mom, she grew up in the island of Grenada. Hey, my islanders, what's up? So in Grenada, my mom, she graduated high school when she was 16. And during her teen years, she had a pet. And her pet was a turkey. And that turkey's name was Patsy. Now, Patsy had a crip walk, kind of leaned with it, rocked with it. You know, she had a little flavor because her leg wasn't quite right, so she kind of leaned left. And Patsy, despite her little wobble wobble gobble wobble, she was a sweet turkey from what Mom always expresses when we talk about her. And we don't talk about her all the time. I just kind of remember at random about Patsy, and then we talk about her. But when my mom was about to move to Puerto Rico after high school, her family sent her on a little errand. You know, they were gonna do a little farewell, and told her to run into town and grab some items and whatnot. She came back and she was gonna go call Patsy and be like, "Hey, Patsy, where you at, girl? I need to feed you. I know you be hungry," And she saw some meat in a bowl in the kitchen, and it was well seasoned. And she didn't hear Patsy, so she had to ask the family, "Hey guys, where's Patsy?" And they kind of, that shifty eye when you definitely did what you probably shouldn't have done, but you did it anyway. She said they all kind of did that with her. And she was like, "Patsy, no!" And then, of course, she wasn't eating what was in the bowl because that's her friend. That's her friend. Now, I tell that story not because it was specifically Patsy that, left. The friendship had to end, not because of Patsy's desire for it to end, and not for my mom's desire for it to end. But there's something about separation that's very difficult when you give something a name, when you expect what you've always done to happen. My mom called Patsy and she expected Patsy to come back to her running, or, like wobble, wobble, gobble, wobbling. And she did that because they had spent time together, this turkey had a whole name, guys, like they were friends. They grew up together because my mom helped her get her wobble, wobble, gobble wobble, like, at least solid enough where she could be up and moving. So when that was broken, again, not because Patsy asked for it to happen, it was happened upon her, if you will. That was painful. That was more like an unexpected death. But at the same time, friendships can feel like that when you think they need to end. Now, unless you're like an INFJ or an ENFJ, like I am, I'm an ambivert, but we can be ruthless. We can be like, "Man, I really liked you at this time. You've now betrayed me. Cut off. Next." And you move on. People are like, "Wow, like that was so easy for you to cut off. Y'all been friends since 1963." And it's like, yeah, and next. I mean, some people are like that. Some people grieve every friendship they lose. And I don't think either way is wrong. It's just a matter of who you are and the makeup of how you think and process life. So not to worry about that. Now, here are some ways that I think someone can determine whether a friendship actually needs to end. I think obviously first off, you have to assess what's going on. Was it a betrayal? Was it a lie? Was it dishonesty? Whatever the situation was, you should definitely assess that. You should maybe have a conversation with them about it, maybe gain some clarity from them and see if that's the case. And you want to maybe process what they said. you might even want to talk to people that you trust. I wouldn't go around just telling the world, oh my gosh. I mean, because what if you're wrong? Then that's horrible. But I would speak to the people that you trust. If you need guidance in figuring out how to handle the situation before maybe you cut it off prematurely or cut it off inappropriately, or you need to cut it off and it's absolutely warranted. And then, honestly, praying about it. I think having guidance from the Holy Spirit is always great if you're a believer, and if you, pray to God and ask, like, hey, can you give me some clarity? I need some understanding of what's happening. I'm not really sure. That's always, always a great place to go and see if you can figure that out. Now, if after all of your assessment and processing, having those trusted conversations with trusted people and maybe even praying about it, if you've done all of that and you realize, yeah, I should probably do this, I think the appropriate way to do it, I think one, stay calm. Be calm in your delivery. Be honest with what you need to say to that person. And be honest in a way that you believe they will receive the information. You don't necessarily have to be honest in a way that they're not going to hear you. You want them to hear you. So if you know them well enough to end it like that, do that. Make sure you articulate yourself as best as you can, which can be hard if it's an emotional breakup, basically, with your friend. It might be hard to kind of keep yourself collected and articulate well, and maybe you need to write a letter or send an email, and that way it's written out and you have a better way of delivering it. And just be direct. Be direct. Don't beat around the bush. I think it leaves the other person even more confused when we try to speak to them in subliminal messaging and have them try to read between the lines. Just tell them. And I think it's obviously going to depend on the level of friendship this is. If this is an acquaintance, if you go ghost on them, they probably didn't even know you were around anyway, so it's fine. And the deeper into the friendship you have, depending on the expectations you set for that friendship, the time that was spent there, or not even just the time, but the quality of the time spent there. It could have been a short amount of time, but it could have been deep and, a deep experience for both of you. And if you gave the friendship labels that hold strong meaning to you, this process can be hard. And so go through that process, realizing that it might be hard, but it might not, at least not for you. And for them, it might be hard and it might not be receiving that from you. But regardless, go in prepared. Be calm as best as you can. Be honest. Articulate yourself and just be direct, okay? You can also go the I don't want to be your friend no more route. You can do that. I'm not going to rain on your game. Let you do what you do. But if you don't want to get punched in the face, the calm, honest, articulate, direct method might go over better for you and your nose, okay? Now, after you've actually done this process, I want you to realize one of two things. One, you gotta heal from that. You may have healed before you spoke to them. Maybe you already rationalized and processed everything to the point where you're like, I'm good. I don't have that attachment anymore. Now I can deliver this without the emotional hang up or feeling like they're gonna suck me back in. If you've done that, great. If you haven't, or even if you did, and then once you actually had to do the delivery, you realize you might need to revisit the healing process, do that. That's fine. And do whatever you need to do to heal. If that's seeing a counselor, if that's talking to another friend to help you process it, speaking to a family member, a church member, a community member, your neighbor, someone that you really trust to process that, or just time in prayer, whatever it is that you need to do to heal, please take that time. And it's going to be different for everybody. And it's going to be it will be different for every friendship that's out there that you have. I want you to take the time to reflect. Reflecting on the pros, the cons, the things that you would definitely want to see in other relationships that you have, other friendships that you have, and things that you know for certain you want to have your radar up about, and the things that you learned from this experience. And I think going through that process helps you to be a more mature person. It helps you to grow from that experience and realize that you didn't have to walk away with everything at a loss, but you gained wisdom, you gained clarity, you gained a better sense of yourself. And hopefully, this doesn't come with building up walls around your heart, because I know sometimes these types of betrayals, especially with a friend, can make you want to be on the defense with everyone else in your life. And it doesn't have to be that way. If you sense that you're starting to block yourself off from other people because of that one relationship and it was just such a bad breakup with a friend that you don't trust people anymore, I would heal from that too. I think you don't want to be blocked off from what the world could offer you just because you got one bad experience that hits you. I don't want you to be hindered by those things at all. So definitely heal, definitely reflect, and move forward. Do things that will help you to move forward, to move on, and give yourself the time that you need. For some, that might just be a week. For some, that might be a few months, a couple years, depending on what happened. And that's okay. Everyone's time frame is different, but as long as you're doing things to try to move forward, to try to step into a space of healing, to try to step into a space of reflection and growth in the process, you're going to be okay. You're going to be okay. So I hope that if you're going through this internal battle right now of, man, like, I might have to cut off my homie. Like, I might have to cut off my bro. I might have to cut off my best friend from childhood. We have so many memories together, so many pictures together, so many things that I might have to delete, tear up, whatever. You got to do what you need to do as long as it's healthy, conducive to your healing and to your processing of the different dynamic between you and that person. Do what you need to do. And I think once you get to that space of really moving forward and moving on from that, and even the sound of their name doesn't even bother you, you'll get to a point where if you were to encounter them again in the future and you might want to rekindle that friendship, depending on how you've seen them and their growth, there's no real stopping you. But sometimes you don't care to go back. You don't care to try to be friends with them if you just happen to run into them at a reunion or at work or down the street or wherever. And that's okay too. But continue to do what's best for your healing, best for your wholeness, and best for your growth in this world. You want to be your best self, and I don't want people to get in your way. They can, they will, they'll try, even people that we called friends. But again, you have no obligation to stay in any friendship that you don't want to be in any longer. And if this happens to you, if someone comes to you and says, I can't be friends with you anymore, you can do a couple of things. I would first respect what they have to say. Listen to what they have to say. And if something needs clarification, clarify it for them. If they don't want to hear your clarification, respect it. Respect that decision. And if even after they have heard your explanation, they still don't feel comfortable being friends with you, respect that. And go through your healing process and reflect and take that time and move forward. You never know. You guys might grow up and heal and get over things, realize it wasn't that big of a deal, and rekindle again. And maybe that will never happen again. Regardless, it's okay. God always sends people into our lives at random times when we least expect it. So don't worry. You're going to be okay. I promise. So I hope that helps. And thank you guys so much for listening to today's episode. If there are any topics that you want discussed in the future, or any questions that you might have that you want me to answer, send them my way. Shoot me a DM on Instagram, on Facebook, on Twitter, or send me an email at hola@firstpaso.com. And if you want to watch my sponsor series on Instagram, it's on there on my IGTV. And I would love for you to support them by supporting me, and in supporting us, you're supporting right now a bunch of Black-owned businesses, which is really cool. And it's all going to really cool causes. I'm doing a series over the next couple weeks, meeting with my sponsors, talking with them, allowing them to express who they are, what they do, why we've teamed up, and why we think that you guys should support their brands as well. I also now have some merchandise out. I'm building my merch store. So if you want to order a t-shirt or a mug, you can go on Teespring, which is teespring.com/stores/first-baso. And I'll have that link on my website, www.firstbaso.com. And if you also have not become a Patreon yet, you should become a First Basito, because I send messages out to everyone on things that are coming up. I give them a little bit more insight about myself, and they get a sneak peek of what's to come in the next episode. So if you become a Patreon, I would love to connect you guys through there. So just go to patreon.com/firstbaso, and you can now send me a text, literally a direct text to me. If you text me at my number, 859-800-3396, we can connect. And I want to hear from you guys. Shoot me a text. Let me know who you are, what you're about. I will respond to your text messages. I'm so excited to connect with you guys. Anyway, guys, that's it for today. And I hope that you guys have a great rest of your week. We'll talk next week. Please continue to social distance. We're not out of the woods yet, but we're getting there. Don't disconnect, guys. Love you guys. Bye.